I'm here. I don't know if you can see me, hear me.
Hello, everybody. Yes, I can hear you.
Hello,
Welcome.
everyone. I can't hear you right now.
Welcome, everyone. This is Elena Buriani and Alexi Fernandez. Finally, we are checking. We are also live on LinkedIn. So apparently it's working.
Yeah, I have to check on Facebook to see if we're working.
Yeah, it's great.
Can't find it now.
So apparently we are live.
Yeah, we are live also on Facebook.
That's cool. Amazing.
Great.
So this was we got prepared for this live talk for a bit while. So we're super excited to be here. Super excited. Let's see if we get any comments. If people can hear us properly. If the
Yeah,
connection is
you can write in the chat if you can hear us properly.
so at least we're making sure we are not alone in this. Okay, yes.
Constantino's here.
Yes, amazing. Thank you so much. That's the power of the community and friendship. That's good. Okay, so this is Elena, the CEO and the co-founder of Lia Growing People. I have with me today Alexi Fernandez. It's calling from Spain. I'm actually based right now in Italy, despite my usual location is Dubai, as you might know, as per now. We are here together today to talk about the return of investment of business coaching. So this is a very hot topic out there. Thank you very much, Alexi, for being with us.
Thank you, Elena, for inviting me. And nice to see you, Teresa and Cristina. Both of you, thanks for your messages. My name is Alexi Fernandez. I'm the managing partner of Shift to We, but I'm also a leadership and development coach at LIA. As Elena was saying, I'm based in the north of Spain now, and I work from this beautiful location in front of the sea.
Wow. Well, I have to spoil that today. I'm in front of the mountain just because I'm in Italy. So I'm as well lucky as you are. We have this extra bit of nature that it's fueling us in today, which is so good. Okay, so today we chosen to touch upon this topic with, as I said, it's quite sensitive, right? Because it's very hard to give a value to what coaching will bring back to the, and now we're talking about business, so back to the organizations. When we talk about coaching, could be business coaching, but also executive leadership or team coaching. Then we're going to go and intervene into the company dynamic. It's not that easy to monetize, to objectivize, the outcome of coaching. I think that both me and Alexi, we have a say around what return of investment means for us, and most of all also around what success means for us, because at the end of the day we value success in this form, return on investment, but also potentially in many other form and way. So today we want to explore this with you. Why we started with this type of conversation, me and Alexi, was very funny because we were focusing on, okay, it's the positive part of it. It's the success, it's the return on investment, is the tangible thing I'm getting back. But actually, we both of us started by talking about our failures, right? So
Yeah.
I want to immediately dive into this, that it's so important, and that also I think made us as we are today doing the profession that we do. And this is the main question that we are asking ourselves, but with the invitation of potentially also stop for 1 second and ask yourself, what have you learned from your failure in the past? So now
Mm.
I'm asking you, Alexi, how your failure brought you here.
Yeah. Well, learning from failure is a very interesting topic because some of us belong to the startup world where failures are cherished as a great way to learn and to know what is not working. No, they say fail fast and fail soon. Not everybody maybe understands the importance of learning from failure, but failure is what brought me to leadership development and coaching, and it brought me to it because again, it has a lot to do with the return of investment of coaching. And I think for both of us, when we spoke of it at the beginning, there's a very big intangible part of the return on of investment on coaching, that is developing humanity, developing humans. And that might be difficult to evaluate. That's why we will also talk about the more tangible results of coaching. But a very tangible result for me of failure was that failure cost me money. And it cost me money because we hadn't invested in what was the right things at the beginning. We had put a lot of effort. I created, just to put everyone in context, I created several companies in the past, and two of them failed and cost me money. And they failed for reasons that had nothing to do with economics or with money or with the way we were developing the product. They failed for the relation between the partners. The business was good, the business was sound, there was great opportunities ahead, but my partners and myself could not align and could not work together, even if we knew each other from before. So what I always say is that we had put a whole lot of time and energy into the product, but, and I call that the hardware of an organization, but we hadn't put enough effort into what I call the software of organizations, humanity. What happened was that the relations between the partners became unbearable and unmanageable. In the first case, I sold my business to my partner, and she kept going with it. And the second case, a great opportunity came up for me, and I just left and went towards that opportunity and left the company that was had a great opportunities again. So both companies failed, or both partnerships failed, because of not putting enough attention into who we were and how we were operating together. And I think the first question a company has to ask is, can the partners work together, and is the human side clean enough to be able to grow on it? Because if not, the foundation is not strong enough to hold all the pressure you're going to have, and you're going to have a lot of impact, a negative impact, on the people that work for you. When they see daddy and mommy quarreling, the two main partners of an organization, everybody feels the foundation is not strong, and their commitment to the organization is not as strong.
Absolutely. And thank you for bringing that on board. So we are literally starting from the foundation of an organization, in this case of a startup, the relationship between the co-founders. But we also have another realm where potentially, yes, fantastic, the relationship between them works very well, or potentially we only have one founder, but then the company is growing, the product is up and running, income are coming, but at a certain point, I've met several startups that they were getting stuck when they needed to employ new people, or where they needed to create new leaders to start creating teams and start expanding. uh, and I saw so many company struggling in day-to-day basis because they didn't have the right person within the team that were bought in with a entire vision of the projects. We were not running the business that they were their business, because maybe there were a value mismatching or a vision mismatching. So this is for example, also one of the situation I experienced myself, more with my parents. They were both entrepreneur, but they had their entire life keep working practically alone because they were not able to go from micromanagement to empowering people, to find the strength in the right people around them. So it's a combo, being able to
Yeah,
attract the right people for you, and once you have them, being able to build onto their talent and strength, and also being able to accompany them with people in the team with different strength so that the team
exactly.
balance and work out properly. So in
Yeah,
any cases, what we were saying, and I loved what you have just mentioned, that the human business case, so the software of the organization, it doesn't lean into the products or the service or the fantastic strategy process that we have in place, but it also lean majorly into the people who are deploying those processes, who are the business, the business card of the organization out there.
yeah. I think this is super important because when you're investing in coaching and leadership development, you're investing in the software of the organization, and what you're doing is basically you're upgrading the software of the organization. So you get your all your computers have upgrades on the software, and they work more efficiently. And I think this is what you're doing when you're investing in the software and the human side of organizations. You are making organizations work smoother with the latest technology and the latest advancements in the human condition. And I think that is super important. And I love what you said about startups because um, I've before I was a leadership development coach, and before even I was an entrepreneur, I was in an organization where we were focused on sales, and I had to train a lot of people in sales. And what I realized is that they usually had to evolve on who they were, and me, I had to evolve from being on the field and being selling to being able to teach and teach people how to sell. I love the action of the close and the moment of the close, and I had to evolve in my mindset to a different stage where I had to enjoy other people selling and give the power to other people and not having the credit myself. And I think that connects a lot of what we were talking about the other day about creating your own definition of success. As a leader and advising organizations on innovation, I've also seen this, what you were saying, that you've got four founders that are super passionate, create a business, and they are doing everything themselves. One person is programming, the other one is selling, the other one is dealing with customer relations, and they love what they're doing, and they have to evolve in the organization to leading other people. And that is a great transition from an organization. When you go from 5 founders to 50 employees, then to 300, you have to start creating processes, and you may not want to create processes. For example, I was assisting an organization and their leaders, and we realized that what they love to do is innovate, but they didn't love to manage people. So they took a more innovation part of the organization, and they hired professional CEOs and professional C-level executives to manage the organization and be able to move it forward. So I think that's very important to understand. Is it, first of all, is it for you? Is it what you want? And you can only ask those questions through coaching and through leadership development. Is that who you are? Is that who you want to be? Is that the impact you want to have or not? And then based on that, we create the skills that will help you be that person that you have to be. Like Marshall writes in his book, what led you here won't lead you there. Sometimes you have to let go of what you know to learn new things to be who you want to be. And I think that is a very big part of this upgrading of the software of an organization.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is extremely, extremely important. You are already tapping into something that I feel it's what is talking more to the heart of the coaches rather than to the heart of the client who really sometimes want to have tangible results with it, which are, I would say, maybe the untangible benefits of coaching.
Mm,
uh, and are those aspects that you cannot really quantify with money, but potentially you can quantify them under other aspects, such as, you know, the energy that you feel in the environment when you go to work, the type of engagement and interaction that you have between peer, or the well-being that is boosted within the organization, or the type of psychological safety that you feel when you are into a conversation. What do I mean by psychological safety? I mean the capacity of the person of feeling safe, of
Mm.
expressing what they think or what they feel without shutting themselves down, or without being scared of being backstabbed, or without being scared of being labeled. So how can we quantify those intangible benefits of coaching?
Yeah, how can you measure happiness, right? I mean, it's a great question. How can you measure happiness? And I think that has a very direct result um, on um, the retention of talent and the acquisition of the best talent. I think that is the great way you can measure the intangible part of coaching. But I have to confess that the intangible part of coaching is why I'm here, and it's what I love. It's humanity, and I think we have to start thinking that we have to prioritize humanity and we have to prioritize nature in the way we do business. So by developing the human side of leaders and people in the organizations, we are letting the organization open their hearts to why they exist and the reason for their existence in the whole. And this might sound a little bit metaphorical, but once you have a reason to exist, you can attract people into your organization, and they will come because they are aligned with why you're doing what you're doing. So I think by developing the humanity of an organization understands why they exist, and people understand their role in that organization and why it all has a reason to exist. I've worked with a whole lot of leaders that were struggling to get their teams motivated. And something that we worked on several times is understanding your role of the team in that organization. Now, sometimes we work a lot on the purpose of an organization, we work a lot in individual purposes, but we don't work on the purpose of a team. And working on the purpose of a team understands why they exist and why they belong to the organization and what role do they have in that organization, have their role in their ecosystem they belong to. So I think that is the most important part. And I think as humans, we have to start prioritizing humans and stop talking about humans as human resources. We are not resources. We are entities. We're living beings that have objectives and things that satisfy them in life. And I think that has to be observed by organizations. And I think that is the really big reason why I do what I do, and I think why a lot of us do what we do. And I think the other element is nature. No, why do we do what we do, and what impact we have on nature? I think we have a role as coaches and leadership developers in to make organizations think about what they're doing with nature, and again their role in our whole existence. Because if not, we're going to deplete the resources we call today. It's humans and nature.
Yeah, it's quite strange to think that as resources, being human, we can be depleted, right? So, and depletion is a big topic. What's the difference if I go to work while I am depleted of energy, but while I'm feeling I'm wasting my time, while I'm feeling I would be somewhere else, while I'm feeling I'm not be seen for the resource that I have, for the talent that I have. I'm not putting my strength into leverage, rather than going to work and feeling I belong, and feeling, wow, every day I'm preaching with my action what I do believe into, because you have recruit the right people, and you brought them in not only for their skills, but you brought them in with their value setting that
Mm,
they are matching with your company potentially, and
yeah.
this is actually the type of intangible benefit. If you have an employee who is a right fit and feel that belongs, it means that what he's doing is meaningful for him.
Mm,
Yeah. And when it's something is meaningful to you, and not only to the organization and not only to your team, then you are keening of create generating an impact. You
Mm.
are keening of doing this extra mile. You are keening of apply what is called discretionary effort, right? Because it's discretionary to give him more or less effort. But if a person is bought in and what he's doing is meaningful, this is coming from within. Because at the end of the day, we wake up and we go to work to express ourselves, right?
Mm.
So the intangible benefits of coaching are so many, are
Yeah,
so many.
and they become very tangible very easily when we start looking a little bit deeper, right? I mean, positive psychology has looked at this, how extrinsic motivation, the traditional way of motivating people to work, basically carrot and stick, um, create a retention of talent for 1.58 1.8 years. Now, intrinsic motivation, based on being connected to the purpose of the organization, understanding why you're there, and as you said, the quality of the time you're there. You can be there for 8 hours, but the 8 hours can be very different, depending on that extra mile you want to talk about. And what has been demonstrated is that the average retention rate for extrinsic motivation based on purpose, intrinsic motivation being connected to the organization, is 2.8 years. So there's a 1 year difference between extrinsic motivation and intrinsic motivation. So the intangible becomes tangible very easily once you start calculating and evaluating what is going on.
Absolutely. And that's also, I want to move a little bit to the measurable of objectives of coaching, that
Mm.
definitely needs to be tangible, needs to be measurable.
Yeah.
Um, and I would say that definitely from my experience, the time, most of the time, what I had that is very clear as a data was then when the experience started with an evaluation of the as is situation.
Mm.
Because of course, if we do not start by really giving a diagnostic of what is there when we start, is there very difficult to make a comparison how
Mm.
far as we have been moving from where we were to where we want to go. So
Yeah.
I always have suggested to my client to introduce, tools to evaluate the as is situation. How
Mm.
each employees perceive himself, how each employees is perceived by their colleagues, how each employees perceive his manager, how each employees perceive the team dynamic. So we
Mm.
can already starting by detecting some area, because again, perception is not measurable, but is a very important data.
Mm.
Even the perception is intangible, but at the end of the day, it affects massively the performance of each person, of each individual contributor. So for sure, one thing that it's very important to me when we start to set objectives, it's really to understand where we are now, what are the data now. And most of the company, they want you to provide results, but they're not given to provide data at the very beginning. So
Yeah.
it's very important to start with those data. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. Because the data allows you to define what is the objective of the coaching relation with your client. And as a client, it allows you to identify where you want to go, what is their objective and what's the direction. And it allows also the person that is receiving coaching to work with the people around him, with his direct reports, with his peers, and with the bosses and bosses of bosses, to understand what is needed from that person. And as you said, having that evaluation allows you to understand what is happening in my life, where am I succeeding and where I'm not succeeding. What you don't measure doesn't exist. For example, Australia thought they had the lowest death toll on the roads in the world. They calculated it and they realized they had the highest one. And now the regulations on the roads are the highest and the most strict in the world. Because if you don't measure, it doesn't exist. So you have to measure what is the problem, and where you succeed and where you're not, to be able to start working on a direction. Once you create a direction based on the reality, you can say, okay, well, based on the report I got, based on this measurement I made, I want to improve on this area, this area, and this area. And then I know where I'm going. And once I know where I'm going, I can measure the impact. And that's where, where the measurable objectives of coaching can come in. You need to know where you're going. And then once you've achieved where you want to get to, you can evaluate the impact of the organization, on the organization, on what has happened. No, you have to understand. You create have to start a value that you calculate. And all organizations have ways of managing and defining with KPIs how the organization is working. So once you create an objective, you can start evaluating the result and the objective result, not the intangible, but the tangible results of coaching.
And then another thing that I feel also is extremely important, once you have set the objectives, that could be in many areas, could be business objective, could be sales objective, could be performance objective, could be, as you mentioned, retaining objective. How much can
Mm.
I attract good quality talent or retain them? Could be performance, performance review, and even those are very objective. You are meeting expectation or you're not meeting expectation, or you are reaching, or you're exceeding expectation. All the leaders get coached and trained on how to evaluate the performance of their people, and those are tangible, but we know ourselves that we are evaluating either the hard skills but also the soft skills, which could
Mm.
also be how much are you fitting into the competency model of the organization, how much are you fitting, if you are a leader, into the leadership skills that the organization has set up for you. So
Yeah.
those are still soft skills that sometimes lead into self-management, conflict management, time management, dealing with emotion, decision making, and those things could also be quite intangible. you know
Yeah. Now,
um,
for example, sorry, I interrupted you.
no, no, go ahead.
For example, the leadership circle has really measured all of this, because for them, obviously, it's their business. The leadership circle is a tool that measures leadership effectiveness, and they have studied the effect of reactive behaviors on the effectiveness of leadership and the effectiveness of the organization. And they've done a study to measure this, and they've realized that reactive behaviors have a negative effect on leadership effectiveness. So they have an indirect correlation. So the more reactive behaviors a leader has, the less effective he is as a leader, and the more reactive behaviors the leaders of an organization have, the more the less effective the organization is. And they've also measured creative behaviors, such as connected to your purpose, being focused on relationships with other people, being focused on creative achievements, being connected to your purpose, and to being authentic about who you are. And they've seen there's a direct correlation between creative behaviors and leadership effectiveness and the effectiveness of an organization. So even intangible areas of leadership have a very measurable result on the effectiveness of an organization, meaning how well the organization works and how much money they make. So there's a very direct, measurable way of seeing objective data out of subjective or intangible, what might seem intangible.
Absolutely. And then there's another aspect that I feel can be very important. Once you have set the objectives, and once you have, in whichever area they are, I think that a good exercise is also to ask yourself, how does it look like? I mean, how will you know when you will achieve it? What will change? Because sometimes we also achieve it without even realizing, oh, actually I have that already. So it's very important also to visualize, how we really want the future landscape to be. What does it mean to achieve that? What does it mean
Yeah.
to have this tangible, measurable, effect. And asking these questions might also then be translated in setting new KPI or new OKR. So can be the client itself understanding at the very beginning of the coaching relationship how he will evaluate in a way that works for him, that it's tangible to him, the achievement, you know?
Yeah,
And it's extremely
I think
important.
I think that's why it's very important that when you start a coaching or leadership relation with a client inside an organization, and this is very important for organizations to understand. Once you hire a coach, it's very important that the manager, the direct manager of that person, is present with the coach and the client in creating, how do we define success, how do we define we've achieved what we want to get to, and how do we celebrate it, because then you can evaluate it. You can say this coaching relation was successful because it attained the objectives we created. So we want this salesperson to be more effective, to have a better performance, to have better numbers. We want this leader to have a better result and better impact on their people. All these, whatever you want to evaluate, you have to define it before you start that coaching relation. So then you can not only measure it, but celebrate it. That person has improved. And I think that's something that we have to learn as coaches too, that when we do life coaching, it's a lot about whatever the client wants. But when we are inside an organization, we have to transform a little bit. And we have to be aware that our success and our client's success depends on us achieving what that person has to achieve. And we have to be able to measure the impact of that person. And we need those elements to be able to evaluate the success of that person. And those are the KPIs of the organization. So we have to link what we do into the KPIs of the organization, so we can see that person is more aligned to the KPIs that are asked from that person.
Absolutely, absolutely. So if you want to resume what we have been saying up till now, so we were really zooming in on the importance of human capitals as the software of an organization. And then we were exploring on the intangible benefits of coaching. But then we were adding on top of that the importance of, anyhow, despite we're dealing with something that seems intangible, how important it is to set objectives that once we understood where we are starting from, can allow us to see the vision of where we want to go, and potentially also defining some data or some OKR or some KPI, which will let us know, did I achieve that objectives? And this is extremely important. But if we want to go deeper into calculating the return of investment, then we also need to look at the other part of it. This is what the client is getting, but we also need to see what the client is investing, right? Because at the end of the day, the return on investment is a formula. So when we think about what our client is investing into coaching, yeah, what is your experience around that?
Well, I think the way you formulate it is super important. I think it's very important to talk about an investment and not a cost, right? Because you are investing in a person and the growth of that person. Yeah. So I think that is the most important element of it. Understanding that you are investing in a human and the software of your organization. And this goes down to, I think, numbers that are very, very simple. I mean, I think whatever you invest in leadership development and coaching is such a fraction of what you're investing in your organization. You put a lot of money into the product of your organization, into the brick and mortar, into the building you got, into all these kind of things, computers, all that kind of stuff. Are you really not going to invest into the humans you got in your organization? Into having clean humans working properly and being happy where they are, and making sure they are satisfied with what they're doing and they're in the right place. As I said before, are you going to be, do you want to be the CEO of an organization? But nobody asked that question. We assume we should be happy to be a CEO of an organization. And maybe it's not what you want. Maybe you have to, and we'll talk about that later, create your own definition of success. No, so calculating the coaching investment is very simple. The coach will bring you an estimate of what it's worth, but then you have to um, evaluate it against how much or what are the results you're getting, and then is where you have to really monetize the results. And each organization has to understand how to monetize those results. What is what they evaluate, and what they give value to. An organization might have, like Patagonia. We are talking about Patagonia the other day. It's a beautiful organization. They are able to monetize uh, caring for the environment. Don't buy this jacket has a monetary result for them. They get more clients out of it, and they walk their talk, right? So they go around and they fix people's jackets.
Yeah. Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah. Did it ever happen to you that to be contacted by a client? This is my personal story. That after they, fired several leader, spending a lot of money in the recruiting process of finding a new one, bringing him in with a good offer, training him, onboarding him. At the second or third attempt, they say, "Okay, we cannot afford to fire any other leader. We rather want to support him in making that shift."
Yeah,
And this is also another important area where I think it's very important to think about when you invest in coaching, because most of the time the quantity of the investment that you will be asked is a small percentage compared to the type of investment, both in terms of time, in terms of resources, in terms of energy, in terms of even going back to where we started, this sense of failing, because
mm,
when you lose a person, when a team lose a leader, when an organization lose a leader, you're kind of failing because you have invested a lot of time in make that happen, right? So
yeah,
I always invite client to take that into consideration, yeah, as a
yeah.
matter
I know.
of
I think that's super important because um, it's kind of an insurance, right? You are protecting your investment from failure. If a CEO fails for any kind of reason, the cost for an organization is enormous because you have spent all the time where you've been realizing that person is not performing. And not only a CEO, any person in an organization, you have to spend all the time where you actually evaluating that person is not performing the way you want to. Then you decide to do something about it. You give a warning. Then you realize that person is not working, and you take the drastic decision of removing and changing that person. Then you put a new person in. You have to find that person, so that there will be a time until you find the right person. That person will have to adapt to the team and have to create his own leadership style, and then that person will be working, hopefully, at the rhythm you like them to be working. So instead of spending all that time in replacing someone that didn't work, could be a year, in all the processes I just said, you can invest in that person. First of all, making sure that's what they want to do. Because many times in coaching, you find, and I think that's something very important for organizations too, is that you find that person is not the best suited, doesn't want to be really there, wants to be somewhere else, and that's where that person should be. And then you can make that change before it created a negative effect on the organization. Just to define who you are, what you want, and why are you there, then you can be in the right place in your organization. And most of us don't know who we are. And as we spoke about the other day, it's creating your own definition of success. We many times, oftentimes, follow someone else's definition of success, and we try and be the person you want someone to be. I also was a lawyer in the past, and I was a lawyer because I was following someone else's definition of success. Everybody thought that was a great career for me. And I hated it. And I hated it. It took me, 6 years of a law degree, working in a law firm for 2 years to realize that was not my path because I was following someone else's definition of success. If I'd received coaching, and I love working with teenagers and coaching teenagers to help them avoid the mistakes I made. Imagine if, as a teenager, you know what you want, you know what moves, you know
I
your
would have had
values,
a
you know what.
coach. Yes.
Yeah.
This is
So
what I'm always saying.
imagine calculating the coaching investment on teenagers and the mistakes they can make in studying the wrong career and having to study something else afterwards. Imagine if that happens on an individual and a family. Imagine what the investment can be in an organization and the impact it has on the results of an organization. If that has it's the impact on a family, imagine the impact it has on an
Imagine on an
organization.
entire organization. Yes, if you have
Yeah,
a lot of people who are there because they thought they were supposed to be lawyers and or salesperson or a developer, where actually they're just following a path that was not actually their own. So that's
yeah,
extremely important. So we calculate the coaching investment. And then finally, once we got, a collection of all the tangible and intangible benefits of coaching. On the other side, we have calculated how much we have invested in this process. Then it's the time to calculate the return on investment of the entire path. Um, but we wanted to combine the return on investment that, yes, after what we have shared with you, can also be very tangible. Yeah, can be even having a monetary format. Anyhow, we want to keep stressing what is really important, which is, who says that the return of investment needs to be evaluated by monetary value? Yeah, we rather want to see this under a different form, that go more embracing what is the return on investment that you want as an organization. Maybe it's not money. What is the return on investment that you want as a leader? Maybe it's not money either. What is the return on investment that you want as a individual contributor? Maybe it's not even money. So, what is success then? What is the return of investment that we want?
yeah. It's exactly creating your definition of success as an individual, as a team, and as an organization. And again, I emphasize the importance of teams defining their definition of success, because teams are very driven by the organization and what an organization defines as success. But I was working with a leader of a team the other day, and she's like, "Well, I don't agree with." With the sales department that says everything has to be selling and only selling. I want to develop the human side of it. And for me, success in my team means humans being happy and me being happy. And it also means sharing the responsibility of success and the responsibility of the team with other people. I don't like to be alone. So for that person, sharing sharing responsibility and sharing success, and the humans in her team being satisfied and happy, was very important. For her, it was very important that this new person that had moved from one city to another to work in this organization was not fired. That was an important measurement of success for her. So what does success mean for you? And you can bring more elements into the success. And if you want to calculate it, we got formulas for it. We already said, establish the objectives, measure them, create the quantity to measure them, find a standard value to create that the relation between the objectives and the results in the organization. Use expert input to help you evaluate all that information. Using estimates to calculate all the results, and then you deduct the investment how much money you've invested into the coaching, and you'll get the ROI and a very clear number out of it, and it will work because how much you invest on a coach is very low compared to the results of an organization. So if you want that technical measurement, you have it and you can do it. But I think there's much more power, much more energy for the organization when you are able to define your own definition of success as a leader, as a team, as an organization, and then evaluate and celebrate that accomplishing that success, whatever it means for you. In this case, for this person, the humans in the team being happy, apart from having financial results.
If you could tell one of the best, success you have had in coaching a business, how did you evaluate yourself as a coach involved in that process, your return of investment?
Um, I mean, happiness is a complicated word, but seeing a person shining after a session by knowing what they want and seeing how they can do it, for me is how I evaluate uh, the success of that person and my relation with that person. Having that person happier at what they do, and with their eyes shining about when they're thinking about how they can implement what we've been working through on a session. For me, it's really the best way to define my success on my relation with a person. No, for me, humans and my relation with humans is the most satisfying um, element or reason for what I do. And having humans awaken and be conscious of who they are, what they do, and bring who they are to what they do is beautiful. For example, I say now that I could be a lawyer now from who I am and what I know about myself now, knowing my purpose, my values, all those kinds of things. I can be a lawyer that implements those values. Now, when I was working with someone else's definition of success, I couldn't be a lawyer because I was working with someone else's values and someone else's definition of success. Now I got my own definition of success, helping humans and helping nature. Then I can help, and I can do whatever I do. I many times, oftentimes, tell my clients that this is not about being whatever profession you're in. It's from where you've been in that profession. Yeah. So there's a very beautiful story about a carpenter that loved being a carpenter and grows his business and how it starts hiring a whole lot of people, and suddenly he's unhappy because he's managing people instead of doing carpentry, what he loves. I remember when I was surfing in Australia, I was surfing with this guy, and he was in construction. He was a bricker. Bricker make a lot of money in Australia. And I was coming from my all my university training and all those kind of MBA kind of thinking. And I was like, well, you know what you should do? You should, become independent, create a team of brickers that work for you, and you get hired, and then you can relax, and then you can spend more time on the beach while other people are working. And he was like, Alexi, it's 7 o'clock in the morning. We are surfing together on the beach. I'm going to start working at 9. I'll leave and go work. I'll work from 9 to 5. I'll go back surfing with my friends on the beach. So what is it about managing a group of people that's not going to give me what I already have, and the level of tension and anxiety is going to create for me? So that person had his definition of success, and it's always been a reference in my mind about that person created their definition of success, and I'm trying to impose my definition of success on them. It's creating a business, but they have theirs. And if they were not clear about what they wanted, I could influence them negatively into imposing my definition of success on them. I think that's what
Absolutely.
happens a
And
lot with
this is
society.
so important, not only when we are coaching, but most of all when we are, as you said, aligning with our, with our employee or our team member who we are sponsoring through the coaching journey. Having this conversation, as a me being your manager, what is the definition of success that I have for this coaching process? What is that the return on the investment that I want to have as a manager? And also what I think it is the return on investment that the organization wants from us, doing this together. But
Yeah.
on another hand, also taking the time to ask to the person who is directly involved in the coaching process, what is your definition of success? And
Mm.
potentially already at the beginning, align on something that work for both. Because if not, we are just repeating the same mistake, right?
Mm.
That a person cannot even be living his own personal journey because he needs to feed into the return of investment that his manager want for him. And if I can share an example, I remember that one of maybe the biggest success that I had in my coaching was, a big manager that was coming to me and saying, the feedback I got from my manager is that if I continue like this, I won't meet expectation in the next performance review. They want me to meet expectation in next performance review, and this was the only information we had. Working on what is the issue, what is the problem, was very, very vague and generic. So what I loved about the challenge that was given to us, of course, we were missing a piece of alignment here, right? But it was challenging. But the thing was that being so vague, we had the opportunity not to coach the topic, which should never happen, but to coach the person. So the person not only was able to meet expectation, she was able to exceed expectation, and she was able to change completely the team she was having, and she was able to change completely the energy she was going to work, the way she was managing conflict, the way she was showing up. Why? Because it was rounded. As you see, it was sustainable, it was organic, it was um, leaving the opportunity as being part of an ecosystem and not just simply a single random crazy player going there. So this is also is my definition of success, when you got given with one objective and potentially you are able to bring the client even beyond that objectives, being also able to embrace things they were not even able they could achieve before the coaching journey. So this is always a fantastic transformation to witness, with our
Yeah.
client.
I love
um
what you're saying, because what it allowed that person to not be micromanaged in how she created her own success. So that's where you want to get to. Find the way to get there. Not you have to go there and this is the way to get there. What I loved is the vagueness of the instruction of the manager allowed for the client to be able to find her own way. And I think that's super important, that we find our own way to get to the results. And I think as organizations, when we hire coaches, it's very important that we give enough freedom for that path to be the path that the person, that the client creates on getting there, and not too limited and strict path in getting there, because then it allows that combination of what you're talking right now, the combination of the objectives of the organization and the objectives of the person. And I love what you said before. How will you know? No, how will that look like? I think it's a great way to start a coaching conversation.
Absolutely. So I think we have said many things about return on investment. Maybe now is the time for some Q&A. If there's somebody there that wants to write any comments or any questions, be also aware that we know the live is there. You might go back into it and read it later on. Even if you're not watching us live, feel free to post your questions. We will get them answered, even if it's in 1 month from now, because me and Alexi, we will always be here to support you. So don't be shy. Make sure you are putting your question there. Do you have any questions, Alexi, you yourself?
Do you have any questions? Well, something I wanted to add to this is that some people might agree and some people might disagree with what we're saying. And both ways, we would love to hear your opinion also. Maybe you have a different point of view on a return on investment. Maybe you have comments you want to add, and that those are welcome also. But do I have any questions about what we were talking about right now? Well, maybe a question I would have is how can we convey, this message to organizations, the importance of evaluating the tangible and the intangible benefits of coaching to in organizations. Some are very open, but some are not as open. And what can we do to convey this message and get it out there, get it to the organizations?
Yeah. Oh, that's a fantastic question. So maybe you
Yeah.
can answer our question. I might have my own way of seeing it, and I always feel that the most fruitful moment in each organization and each personal career journey is the moment of the performance review. So this is really a moment where you should feel free to talk, free to ask. And if the freedom is not there, you have two options, rather ask for it, or rather find an organization who will give you that freedom, because maybe it's
Mm,
not the good match for you, or also finding the way to communicate your needs better. Yes,
yeah.
because before you quit and you say, well, forget about it, they don't listen to me, they don't do anything that I want, we also have to be sure we have asked the thing in the right way, that we asked the thing that in a way that they could hear it, in a way that they could understand it. So definitely this could be a first step. If you feel you have some need that hasn't been met, ask yourself, have I been communicate them properly, right? And use the performance review with your leaders to ask for what is that you want. And if it's a coaching journey, what that you want, don't be shy to ask. And potentially, you can be one drop in the ocean, and just by starting by your personal experience, maybe the organization will understand how the benefit could ripple, if it's rather than be just with you single person that you're listening to us today, go to all your colleagues. But this has
Yeah.
to start from us, for every single drops. Don't be shy or worried to ask what you think you deserve. Yeah.
Hmm.
And I think that this would be a fantastic start.
Yeah, and measuring it is the way for it to be able to replicate it inside the organization. So once you start measuring the return on investment, the organization can understand why they should do it with other people. Or a way also to sell it to an organization, if you want to start developing and growing yourself, is okay, I'll start, let's measure it, and if it works, let's keep doing it. So you can be the guinea pig of the organization into investing into humans, because I think many of us believe we should invest in humans, and we should convert humans from resources into the essence of an organization. So if you believe that, I think a great way to convince an organization into starting investing in humans is being the first one and getting measured, measuring the results of it, and then it can be replicated inside the organization.
And even if we want to keep it more, down to the ground, in case you are not part of an organization, or you're not a leader, you're not a startupper, you're not a founder, a co-founder, the same thing happen with family. Yeah. So you can even start that yourself as a parent, and ask yourself the same question. You can even measure the improvement of your parenting skills just by measuring, the results of your son or daughter at school, or how less difficult was for them to choose their career, how much happy and fulfilled they were. So we have a role, and we are leader even with our kids. So
Yeah,
I
exactly.
really hope we are tapping, on all the leaders out there. And if you want to explore this further, please get in touch with Alexi. Yeah, so he's a fantastic leadership coach. Is a fantastic expert in business. Now you know him better, from inside out, from failure to success. So don't be shy to address to him any questions. Is available for you also for 30 minutes, free conversation. You can schedule a session directly with him through this link. So we really hope to hear from you. And thank you very much for being with us today. And stay tuned for any other live talk that will happen on our page. Thank you so much, Alexi.
I just wanted to add something that when we talk about leadership development, we might think it's only for bosses and for people that have teams behind them. But what we believe is everyone is a leader, and everyone has a leader inside of them. If you are a family member, you are a leader. Even if you are, one of the younger members of the family, you are a leader too. You lead and you have an impact on other people. So I think that's the biggest gift you can give to everyone around you, is investing in yourself as a leader and understanding the impact you have on others.
Thank you so much. I'm 100% agree with that. Thank you, Alexi. And thank you, everybody, for being with us today. I see I have a comment. Costantino say thank you. Costantino, we say thank you.
Thank you to
Uh,
you.
Enjoy the rest of your holiday. If you're on holiday, enjoy your working days if you are there. And thank you again.
And thank you, Elena, for this invitation. It's been a pleasure to have this conversation with you.
Anytime. Bye.
Okay, bye.